protecting homes and businesses from the whims of nature, you need more than just quality materials. You require RiverLand Roofing. Licensed, insured, and certified, RiverLand Roofing offers not only the assurance of excellence, but a tailored approach to your unique structural needs and budget. To learn more about what RiverLand Roofing can do for you and the community, call them at 662-644-4297 or visit riverlandroofing.com.
You're locked into Talk of Champions, an Ole Miss sports podcast with Ben Garrett and Billy and Body of the Ole Miss Spirit. Hello again, friends, and welcome inside the RiverLand Roofing Studios, New Albany branch, since we opened the RiverLand Roofing Studios just off the Oxford Square earlier this week, and so much fun stuff coming y'all's way in that RiverLand Roofing Studios. I'm talking about live podcasts that we want y'all in on and coming visiting with us, meet and greets, NIL opportunities. So much is going to be happening at RiverLand Roofing, the studios we built out, and they've been just such good partners to us here at the Ole Miss Spirit, OleMissSpirit.com, Flip on 3, and Talk of Champions, RiverlandRoofing.com, 662-644-4297. A lot coming down the pike. Talking about Twitch streams, watch-alongs, pregame, postgame shows, so much on the way. And hopefully you're going to have it completely done and operational and rolling along. Walker Jones on Wednesday was just the first attempt at a live show to make sure all the tech worked. But moving forward, man, there's going to be so much we're going to be doing at RiverLand, and you've got to be a part of it. So join the Ole Miss Spirit, OleMissSpirit.com to Fit on 3. Subscribe, rate, review Talk of Champions in iTunes, wherever you get your podcast. Simply search Talk of Champions and leave a 5-star review. Doesn't matter what you say, as long as it's 5 stars. Big things are happening courtesy of the Ole Miss Spirit and our friends at RiverLand Roofing. RiverlandRoofing.com, 662-644-4297. But today we're live from the New Albany branch of the RiverLand Roofing Studios. Thank you for joining me. A loaded show for you today. If you missed Walker Jones on Wednesday, make sure to go back and check that one out. If you have any questions about revenue sharing in college athletics and the House settlement that just came down and what it means for Ole Miss sports operationally moving forward, that's the podcast for you. Unfortunately, because I did that podcast on Wednesday, I neglected a listener request as far as content for the next Talk of Champions. So we're going to cover that today. First of all, Chris Saxon, my apologies. He sent me an email. He said, actually under the Walker Jones video, you said an email to me that you would discuss in depth the offensive line this morning. What happened? When? I forgot. I just forgot. I am human, and sometimes things just slip the brain, and Walker Jones came in, and we had a great conversation, sat down and talked about so much, including the starting defense that he still remembers for his last Ole Miss defense that played Randy Moss and Marshall in the Motor City Bowl in 1997. So go check that out. But today, Chris, I'm here to talk about the offensive line after we talked to Koren Johnson. I went on Thursday to the Ole Miss basketball practice facility, the Tui Center, to sit down with Koren Johnson, a transfer from Louisville, who is going to be such an important piece for Ole Miss basketball next season as they build this roster back out. Only 3 returners for Ole Miss basketball: Malik Dia, Eduardo Klofke, and Zach Day. Congratulations to Zach Day, a former walk-on, earning the scholarship, well-deserved, and he could play a serious role for Ole Miss down the line. I know Chris Beard thinks he can be an SEC contributor, had some offers coming out of high school and decided to take a chance on himself at Ole Miss with no guarantees whatsoever, earn that scholarship and could play along. But really the focus, I think, for the summer, obviously, is all the new. There's so much new out there. One thing that stuck out to me immediately, having gotten to see a little bit of their practices, meet a lot of the new players, talk to the coaches, talk to anybody I can around the program, this is an athletic basketball team. Better depth of options potentially for this basketball team. Last year, man, they had some competitors. They really did. And, made history in matching the single season greatest accomplishment in Ole Miss basketball history, making the Sweet 16, winning 24 games. Far and away, one of the most successful seasons in the modern era, if not ever, for Ole Miss basketball. And the question was, how can you replicate that? How can you keep the ball moving? How do you keep the line moving for this basketball program that is ascending, right? 120 games in the first year. Chris Beard missed the postseason last year, make it to the Sweet 16. And this team has the look of another NCAA tournament contender. I think what's really cool to see about this group in particular is the athleticism across the board. And also they addressed their one real Achilles heel last year, which was rebounding and rim protection, specifically in the front court. They've addressed that in a big way with Corey Chest, with James Scott. Corey Chest coming from LSU, and then James Scott coming from Louisville, as did Koren Johnson. I asked him about that, the uniqueness of both him and James Scott coming from the same school, transferring to Ole Miss. And Koren's going to play a huge role. Honestly, Keza Griffa, the transfer point guard from High Point, was the last piece that they were really missing to make it look like a truly complete roster. They didn't have a true point guard on the roster. Now, Koren Johnson and Travis Perry were both going to play that, but they have positional versatility, and Ole Miss wants to utilize them and their playmaking more off the ball if they can, and really getting Keza opens this roster up even more than maybe what the upside was before him. I mean, I think honestly, Chris Beard wouldn't say when I asked him, he's not the final piece, because recruiting and roster construction these days in college athletics are year-round, 24/7. There's no end date. Ole Miss could add more players between now and August if they wanted to. They at least have some room to add a player or two. So he didn't want to say final piece, but certainly with what they have so far, he was the needed piece to really complete the contender that Ole Miss has now. And it's a really impressive collection of players. Koren Johnson is one of them. He's recovering from an injury last year, was so good for Washington the year before. Travis Perry is a little bigger than I expected him to be, and impressive as a human being, impressive as far as what he could bring to Ole Miss. I think he's going to be a really big piece. And this team looks like another NCAA tournament team. This team looks like it would have given last year's team, just based purely on talent, would have given them a game, if not beat them outright. I mean, this is on the same level as that team. That team made the Sweet 16, and if not a little bit better, considering their athleticism and their rim protection that they brought along, which really held them back a little bit last year. So a really fun basketball team. I know that expectations and excitement is very, very high over there. You talk to Chris Beard, you talk to Brian Berg, Wes Flanagan, any of the players, they see it too. This is a very talented basketball team, and Koren Johnson is going to be a big, big part of that. So I went and talked to him and sat down with him at the pavilion, or excuse me, at the TUI Center before practice to kind of get a read on where things are right now with him, how he's feeling, what the transfer process has been like. And he joins us now. This is Talk of Champions, powered as always by our friends at RiverLand Roofing, riverlandroofing.com, 662-644-4297, and the Ole Miss Spirit, omspirit.com, and affiliate on 3. It's the website that I write for. Got tidbits for you on basketball, football. Recruiting is very, very, very hot right now, including the baseball portal. Ole Miss on Thursday picked up its first baseball portal commitment in Garrett Richardson, the pitcher from Grand Canyon. I expect a little more movement by the end of the week, but it's getting a little later. I mean, it's Friday now. Y'all watching this live on a Friday, and so far, at least, they've only gotten one commitment, while their contemporaries, like in-state rival Mississippi State, have hired Brian Connor and brought all of Virginia with them. Their very best players, at least, and also an NC State shortstop who Ole Miss would have loved to have, I figure. But there are a lot of targets and names to know for Ole Miss baseball in this portal that you can only find at the Ole Miss Spirit, omspirit.com, affiliate of On 3. Also talking all about the recruiting piece. Emmanuel Tucker on Thursday committed to LSU over Ole Miss. He's a New Albany guy, and you might be wondering, Ben, what the heck is going on? I'm just going to put it frankly and simply. I wasn't surprised that LSU was the pick on Thursday. I would be surprised if he doesn't sign with Ole Miss come November. I don't care about the noise in June. And that's not just for Emmanuel Tucker either. That's for all of these top-ranked prospects, these recruits. Like, commitments and stuff have never meant less. Remember, at this time last year, Caleb Cunningham was an Alabama Crimson Tide. And now he is an Ole Miss Rebel, reported, and joins an Ole Miss wide receiver room that I think is going to be absolutely explosive, deeper, I think, than last year's group, which was so productive. But the baseball portal is happening. They finally got on the board after watching so many others pick up players. I would say 6 to 8 is the transfer range for how many Ole Miss wants to add. A big piece for them is retaining guys like Judd Udemark, Will Furness, maybe even Hunter Elliott. I know they want to, but Hunter, I mean, he at some point he has to get his career started. Obviously, his professional career started, and this is if he gets drafted high enough, he'll sign. But I know that Ole Miss would love to try to bring him back, is working to bring him back, negotiating also with its current roster. Guys like Hayden Frederico, who's been tampered with like crazy. Ole Miss is making sure that he's got what he needs to be a key piece for Ole Miss next year. So the bones are strong enough, but they have to add in the portal, and now it's finally starting to happen. We will have every single step for Ole Miss baseball covered at the Ole Miss Spirit, OleMissSpirit.com, as well as this basketball piece. Been writing about Elias Carmerdine, who the French former Eurobasket MVP, who hasn't arrived at Ole Miss yet to participate in practices with Koren and them. But he should arrive any day now. There's no concern there. And I think he's an NBA player. I mean, this is an NBA draft guy. He went through the process last year, high level of talent, picked up by identified, I should say, by Brian Berg, Ole Miss assistant, and with him and Keza Griffin. And then you combine, and then you mix in Koren Johnson and Travis Perry. There's just so much. Eduardo Klofke, the second-year guard who was in the rotation for Ole Miss all year. Malik Diaz, a superstar in the front court, an absolute superstar. They have the makings, again, of a contender. If you made me guess the starting five today, it's the third day of practice, or yesterday was the third day of practice. Today's the fourth. Keza Griffin at point guard, Elias Carmerdine is at the 2, or Koren Johnson, Travis Perry. They're all going to mix in. That's the big 4 for those 2 spots. But the starters, I would guess, Keza and Elias. And then at the 3, AJ Storr, kind of filling that Matthew Morrell role, and they look very similar. And at the 4, Malik Dia, because they want to stretch him out to 3. Take some advantage of the defense with his 3-point shooting. And then James Scott and/or Corey Chest at the 5, bringing that rim protection, that athleticism at that 5 spot that really they just didn't have enough of, if at all, last year, and still made the Sweet 16. And Koren Johnson's a fascinating case because his recruitment, he had his options in the portal, but Chris Beard sold him on being a lot like Sean Padula, the breakout superstar of the NCAA tournament for Ole Miss. And right now he's rehabbing. He's recovering from his injury, his shoulder injury. He should be full go by August. I think July they're really going to ramp him up, but right now he's still recovering. Here's Koren Johnson, the Ole Miss guard transfer from Louisville, one of 2 transfers from Louisville for Ole Miss, James Scott being the other one, joining us on Talk of Champions. Powered as always by RiverLand Roofing, 662-644-4297. Few, if any, are doing more for Ole Miss in the name, image, and likeness space. They have been so great, not just for me and for this podcast and for our website, the Ole Miss Spirit, but also for Ole Miss athletics writ large. So I just want to say, again, thank you to RiverLand, such a great partner for us, RiverLandRoofing.com and the Ole Miss Spirit. Here is Koren Johnson. This is Talk of Champions. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Tui Center. I'm sitting here with Koren Johnson, Ole Miss transfer from Louisville. They landed him in a great portal class that was top 20 in the country. Going to play a huge role for Ole Miss next year. But Kay, how you feeling, man? How's it? How you been settling in at Ole Miss and things like that?
Everything's been good. I've been adapting well. Just getting conditioning every day, getting rehab every day for my shoulder, and then just expanding my range of motion in my shoulder, and then just school-wise, everything good. So.
What stuck out about Ole Miss? Because you had options in the portal. I mean, the portal, it's a whirlwind, right? I mean, it's constant all day, every day. How did Ole Miss separate for you once you went through that process?
Me and Coach Beard, we had a great first conversation. Coach Flanagan, who recruited me from the start, he told me that Coach Beard didn't really like talking on the phone. So the first time I talked to him, we talked for an hour, and that kind of set it off right there. And then just the conversation we had was very heartfelt, and he went through some stuff and I went through some stuff with my shoulder, and we kind of bonded after that.
Yeah, as far as Oxford and your new teammates, that's what's so fascinating about this new culture, man, because like you quite literally walk into a whole new situation, both the facilities, the team, the coaches and stuff. That acclimation process, has it been pretty easy for you? I mean, what's that like, get to know guys for the first time and trying to put a team together, right?
Like I went through at Louisville, everybody was new. I met new people, and it kind of helped me to come to a new place like Ole Miss, and all my teammates are welcoming, all the coaches are welcoming, and we all love each other, even though we just met a couple months ago. So.
Yeah, as far as the team and the look of it so far, I mean, obviously you're just working in a limited fashion. You're doing some mid-range shooting, stuff like that. You won't really be ramping up until July or whatever it might be. But when you look out there and you see the team that has been constructed, give me a breakdown, man. What does it look like out there? Does it look like a team that's going to be something to, not something to mess with?
Yes, it's not nothing to mess with. It's only the third practice today, so I mean we're all learning each other's games and tendencies. But from the first two practices, I felt like once we all learn each other, it's gonna be a great year.
As far as the conversations with Coach Beard, you mentioned that y'all really developed a good relationship based on mutual experience and adversity stuff that y'all talked. But from a basketball standpoint, what kind of role, like what did he talk to you as far as definition of role and what he wants from you once you are healthy? And like what are you kind of envisioning for yourself at Ole Miss in this year?
I'd say kind of compared me to Sean Padula last year, how he came in here his first year. He had a great year. He led the team, and he got everybody involved as well, and then they won games. So he took that leadership role and won games. So he kind of wants me to do the same thing this year.
What did you know much about Ole Miss? I mean, obviously Louisville played Ole Miss last year, and you and James were both on that same team, but you were banged up. What did you know about Ole Miss, and when did you kind of think this could be a fit, man? Like, for real, this could be a fit for me?
I didn't really know a lot about Ole Miss. I mean, I obviously know about the football team and how good they are.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was all new, just getting to know about Ole Miss and the success they had in the last 2 or 3 years. And then, yeah, Coach Beard was a big play in that, where I was like, yeah, I want to be here.
As far as you and next year and this year coming up, how crazy is it to be playing with James again? Did y'all have any conversations about that? Like, did y'all when y'all went through y'all's transfer process, were there any conversations like that?
Yeah, so I mean, I kind of told him I felt like Louisville got 2 bigs where I was like, they're gonna have to be splitting minutes with you, and he was like, I kind of see that. And then I think it was like right when he entered the transfer portal, I had seen it on Twitter, and Coach Flanagan called me. He was like, we need James. And then Coach Beard called me, we need James. So after they called me and said all that, I was blowing up his phone every day. And he kind of told me it was between Auburn, NC State, and us. So kind of I was just reaching out to him every day, telling him, like, we need you. Like, we want you to be the starting big man for us, and I feel like it's going to be a good opportunity for you. And he came on the visit, and he liked it, and he talked to Coach Beard, and he said he liked how Coach Beard was telling him, like, it's a great opportunity, and he took the opportunity. So,
what kind of player is he? For those who don't know, the Ole Miss fans that are just going to be getting to know him this year. I mean, maybe they watched against Louisville and Ole Miss last year, but like, what from your? I mean, you know him better than anybody, right? That's here currently. So, like, what kind of player is he?
He's a spark plug. He gets everybody going. He's a fun guy to play with. He's a lob threat. You can throw it anywhere, and he's gonna go get it. And then defense, he likes playing defense. So that's one thing Coach Beard and Coach Adams emphasizes on his defense. So him playing defense and wanting to play defense was a big part for us.
And for Ole Miss fans who don't know you quite yet, because again, last year was the injury, it just robbed you of last year. Washington before that, I mean, you were an all-league caliber player. I mean, you showed up for the Huskies. So when you're right, when you're playing at your peak ability, what kind of player is Ole Miss getting with you?
An electric player. Like everybody can see, I can score the ball. I like to get everybody involved, and then I like getting steals and jump in the lane. And then, I felt like I wanted to become a leader. I felt like I wasn't able to be in a starting role or like a leading role, so I felt like me being in this opportunity is going to bring everything out in my game.
How cool is it too to see so many guys from different walks of life? Because at least from what Chris said the other day, it seems like y'all really hit the ground running so far here. Like, typically with so much new, be it offensive system, defensive system, new players, whatever have you, right? Like, it would be an adjustment. But it seems like this group is taken to each other pretty good. Have you seen that too?
Yeah, like I said, it's only the third day, but from the 2 days we've had practice, I felt like once everybody gets familiar with everybody's game and it knows everybody's strengths and weaknesses, then we will take it to the next level.
And as far as the players you've seen so far, what do you think of Malik Dia, man? Because like that's one of the few returners coming back, man. Like, what can Malik be in another year with you and all these other pieces around him? What do you think about Malik?
Yeah, he's a great player. He was on the scouting report last year when we was at Louisville, and he gave us a hard time. So I'm familiar with this game, and he He's 6'10", 6'9", and can dribble, shoot. So yeah, if he keeps doing that, he's gonna get to his dreams, which is.
All right. So, what was the scouting report for Ole Miss Louisville last year? When y'all were preparing for the Rebels, like what did y'all have to make sure that y'all are accountable for? Malik is obviously one.
Malik, Morrell,
Yeah.
Juju, and then what surprised us was Sean Padula was on he was on the radar, but we didn't have him as high up, and then he came in there and he
did that thing.
16 and 6, it was something like that, but. He had a great game.
As far as the NCAA tournament, man, I mean, getting back there, that's the goal, but it's not to just get there, but to make a run, obviously. How hungry are you because of last year and getting robbed of that with the injury and stuff like that? I mean, you got to be chomping at the bit, right?
Yeah. No, I'm desperate to play in the tournament. Coach Beard emphasizes on it every day. He wants to play on Monday, and Monday is when the national championship is. So we all have the same goal in mind, and then we're just working to get there. So.
What are you majoring in? Just because we talk about basketball all the time, like what's the major? What are you going to get the degree in?
Sports administration.
So you want to be an agent? You're going to be an agent. Hey, in this NIL culture, there's not much better lucrative job, man, than doing the agent thing. So heck yeah, Koren Johnson, Ole Miss transfer. He landed here from Louisville. He's going to be a big part of the Ole Miss backcourt. He can play the point, can play shooting guard. Is there anything in particular that you really wanted to raise your game at Ole Miss? Is there anything that you're like, this is the area of my game as I think about the next level that I got to work on, and this is what I want to accomplish here individually?
I'll just say defense and leadership, and then just getting back to 100% with my shoulder.
And I hope you get back soon, man. He says he's going to be feeling better in July and hopefully ramping things back up. Another NCAA tournament hopeful for Ole Miss this year, and Koren's going to be a big part of it. Thank you for doing this, man. I appreciate you. This is Talk of Champions, and we'll see you soon.
Talk of Champions is presented by our friends at College Corner. Of course, College Corner is the spot for all Ole Miss fans to find the best of the best when it comes to the Ole Miss swag. They've got locations in Flowood, Ridgeland, and the Oxford Commons. So make sure you head over there, check out their store. And if you do shop online, make sure you click the link in our episode description so that we get a little credit for helping you out by getting you the right swag, whether it be baseball series, whether it be summer family events, or just getting ready for the fall. They've got the full lineup of all the Ole Miss gear that you want to see. And it all comes to you from our friends at College Corner. So check them out today. And again, hit that link in our bio and support them and check out the best gear that any Rebel fan would like to have at College Corner.
Protecting homes and businesses from the whims of nature, you need more than just quality materials. You require RiverLand Roofing. Licensed, insured, and certified, RiverLand Roofing offers not only the assurance of excellence, but a tailored approach to your unique structural needs and budget. To learn more about what RiverLand Roofing can do for you and the community, call them at 662-644-4297 or visit riverlandroofing.com.
Talk of Champions is presented by our friends at StatusJet. That's right. StatusJet.com is where you head to get the lowdown on all your options, whether it be big jets, small jets, helicopters. They can help you plan whatever you need to do on your trip, whether it be a work trip, family trip. They can do all that for you. And when you mention the Ole Miss Spirit, you get a discount on a round trip flight. So see if this is the right move for you. For your summer vacations, that time is quickly approaching. So make sure you head to statusjet.com today, reach out to them, and they'll hook you up with the trip of a lifetime. So appreciate StatusJet for supporting the Ole Miss Spirit and those of you who got the travel bug as well.
Moving now to the football side of things. Ole Miss is in summer workouts. There's voluntary work, like voluntary field work where they go through their plays and their schemes and stuff together as teammates, and also the strength and conditioning component with Nick Savage. Watched a lot of that last week. Impressed with Suntaran Perkins and his progress. Impressed with TJ Daughter. He looks fine. I mean, he missed all of spring because essentially Ole Miss just wanted to hold him out and make sure he was right. It was a very grueling year for him. His first time playing that much football in his career, especially at the college level. So TJ Daugherty looking good. One thing that stuck out to me as well, however, amongst all of that is one, Hayden Bradley walked by, the freshman tight end, and he looks the part. And Ole Miss is certainly excited about him because I talked to a couple of coaches, and yeah, they think he has real potential to impact winning as early as next year. But you got Luke Haas and Daquan Wright. But man, what a great starting place as far as their next great tight end with Hayden Bradley. I think they've really hit on him, and he was impressive physically. Also impressive physically. And now to get to my guy, Chris, who asked in an email very, very kindly. Chris Saxon asked very, very kindly, can you talk about the offensive line? And I forgot. I let you down on Wednesday, but here on Friday, we're running through it. Devin Harper, the 4-star offensive line signee from Louisiana, almost landed him over LSU. And everyone knows when LSU wants an in-state kid, 9 times out of 10, LSU gets the in-state kid. Ole Miss won this recruiting battle. Introduced myself to him, shook his hand. He has the look already of an SEC caliber offensive lineman. Typically, when you see offensive lineman freshmen, you can see the pudginess or the areas in which they need to improve, right? The raw ability that you hope can turn them into that kind of multi-year starter in a couple of years. Devin Harper looks like he's ready to play. He is such a huge part of this too, because developmentally, if there's a handful of spots where Ole Miss can be picked apart as far as its lack of scouting and development, certainly bringing offensive linemen in, developing them into starters. I mean, Ole Miss has been so reliant upon transfers, in particular, step in and start. Next year, the starting 5 is Diego Pounds at left tackle, left guard, P.J. Wilkins right now, the transfer from Charlotte, Bryson Sanders at center, Patrick Kudus at right guard, and Jaden Williams at right tackle. And that's a good enough group. That is comparable to any other offensive line group in the SEC, Chris. The issue, however, are the depth or lack of depth of options behind them. A lot of unprovenness. We don't know what Delano Townsend, the transfer from UAB, is, but he had a pretty good spring. I think he's got positional versatility. So you know he'll be in that mix, especially at guard. But Bryson Sanders, man, they need him, who was out most of the spring. They need him to settle in as that starting center, to take that step and be that guy game in, game out, down in, down out. That's a huge piece, because if he's not that guy, Patrick Kudus, the transfer from Arkansas, who is critical as the right guard, because I don't know who the right guard is if it's not him, slides to center. So you see how it kind of starts to change the calculus when you consider the options behind those 5 more than capable starters. The biggest question for all of them is, can they stay on the field? Can they be healthy? Injury and durability questions across the board. I've said this before. I've used an example before, but in 2012, Hugh Freeze's first year, the reason they won 7 games, of course, because of Bo Wallace and all that they brought in. But what can never be lost about that year in particular is all 5 of their starting offensive linemen started every game and played pretty much every snap for that team. Unheard of in 2025. Unheard of even for 2012. That's just to have that kind of injury luck, that fortuitous injury luck. You don't see it very often. It would behoove Ole Miss if they could have similar type luck this year, because I don't know quite what the options are behind them. Now, having said that, Ole Miss did address, like it did in the secondary, its offensive line, or at least its need for more offensive line help in the spring portal. The secondary after the spring was far and away the position that I had the most concern about. They just did not have enough. Saw Ricky Fletcher recently, looks great physically, got some production on his resume. Guy like that steps in and assumes a starting role and runs with it like Trey Amos did. Well, Trey was an All-American, but similar in that vein where he takes over a spot and runs with it. It would behoove Ole Miss for something like that to happen. TJ Banks, Cedric Beavers, Sage Ryan has positional versatility. Tavoy Fagan was an addition from Clemson that they think can be good depth for them, at least to start. They have more options now. The offensive line didn't quite address it the same way, but they did add a piece that could start and address what we're talking about here. Could he push Diego Pounds, who came on at the end of last year but struggled to start? Could he push Jaden Williams, who just can't seem to stay healthy? Or if Jaden does go down, as has been the case the next couple of years, Would Therese Davis, the transfer tackle for Maryland, step in? Will he win a job outright? He certainly looks good enough physically. Started games at Maryland, a player Ole Miss believes in and thinks can come in and impact winning immediately. They need him to, because after P.J. Wilkins, after Delano Townsend, you can pick your guy. For me, it's Devin Harper, but who is next? I think Devin Harper has tremendous upside, the most upside of any freshman offensive lineman that Lane Kiffin has signed, and he's entering year 6 at Ole Miss. And that sounds lofty. That sounds like a lot. I believe it to be true. I really do think he's that capable. I know what the coaches think of him. I know what they already want to see out of him, potentially impacting winning as early as next year when Ole Miss is going for its 4th 10-win season in the last 5 years. That's the expectation. Yes, they're replacing over 70% of their starting lineup. But I promise you, over there in that building at the Manning Center, not far from the RiverLand Roofing Studios, just off the square on North Lamar, can't wait for y'all to come and hang out with us. Play video games for Twitches with players and me and have meet and greet. I can't wait for all that. And not far away from those RiverLand Studios at the Manning Center, you ask it everyone to amend. Yes, of course, they got to have this kind of confidence about them and say, we're going to keep the ball rolling. Of course, we expect to win, but they mean it when they say it. They really do. And while some, including the national media, would like to say, well, Ole Miss, of course, will take a step back, they are not operating that way. I know Austin Simmons expects to win double-digit games. It remains to be seen if they will. But if you're asking if the talent is good enough to do so, it is. But it's inexperienced, or it's been put together. It's got some experience, but been kind of thrown together, right, through another transfer portal haul for Ole Miss football. A lot to like about this team. The offensive line, while the secondary was that position of worry after the spring, the offensive line for me is that position now. Now, the secondary still about right there with it, right there with the offensive line. But the offensive line for me is the big question mark. Still, if they can put together a strong, competent, comparable SEC starting 5 up front, but what comes behind? What when they inevitably have injuries? They're not going to have the 2012 luck, most likely. So when injuries happen, underperformance happens, whatever happens, who's next? Devin Harper is a big piece of that. Bryson Sanders has to take over at center. He has to be that guy. I don't know who the number 2 center is. I don't think Ole Miss knows quite who the number 2 center is. I know who it would be if a change had to happen in game, Patrick Kudus. But they need Patrick Kudus to hold down that right guard spot, beside Jaden Williams blocking the blind side of Austin Simmons, who's been the highest rated, has Jaden Williams, the highest rated Ole Miss offensive lineman when he's healthy. But what a caveat that is, when he's healthy. Right now he is, but can he be that way for 12, 13, 14, 15 games? And you see what I did there, because the college football playoff is the expectation, and they have a starting 5 good enough for the playoff, but the depth, it remains to be seen. Now, do I think Therese Davis, Devin Harper, John Wayne Brady, who had a good spring, do I think Ole Miss will figure that out between now and then? I do. But we saw last year, Ole Miss didn't really expand its options, right? It didn't really try all that much more. It kept going with the same group over and over again, and they rode that roller coaster. Early on, it was worse than it was later in the year, but it was never quite the dominant group, even though it was mostly the same 5 every single week, the dominant group that Ole Miss would hoped it would be. I think this group will be better than last year's group. How much better? A win or 2 difference better? I just can't say that with confidence now. I will say, though, they have a good enough group in starting 5 to win enough and get to the college football playoff. I like Diego Pounds in year 2 especially. I think he's going to have a monster year. He's been an incredible leader. With all these new faces, Diego Pounds has been a galvanizing force, a great leader for Ole Miss football. And if anybody's pissed about the Kentucky loss, it's Diego. You know what I mean? Like, he's ready to go out there and show it. And I think he's in for a huge, huge year if he can stay on the field, which he wasn't able to do because he was in a black jersey all during the spring. So to answer your question, Chris, I'm sorry it took me a couple of days. I like the starting 5 well enough. Therese Davis coming in here and being a next-level prospect, coming from Maryland and showing out in the SEC would do wonders, because then maybe a Jaden Williams can have some positional versatility. He can play both guards. He can play both tackles. Whatever it might be, getting the best 5. I have no doubt that the best five for Ole Miss is as good, if not better, than most of the SEC. I'm not going to put them up there with Georgia and Alabama, who seem to always have the best offensive lines. But certainly within that top 8, if there's 16 teams, they're within the top 8, I think, as far as starting five. But the depth, wait and see. Devin Harper, you look the part. Can you be the part? Because we haven't seen that with a Lane Kiffin offense in 6 years since he's been in Ole Miss. So there's your offensive line update. If you, the Ole Miss fan, just like Chris, has anything you want covered at length here on Talk of Champions, simply drop a comment on YouTube. Hit me up. I'll probably be able to see it more and not forget. If you join the Ole Miss Spirit, if you haven't already, omspirit.com, 5-on-3. Ask me questions on the message board. For example, on Thursday, I did an all-day Ask Me Anything. Like, I will be as honest as I can be and know how to be and tell you or try to address each of your questions with as much depth and knowledge that I can provide. So hopefully, Chris, even though it was a couple of days late, this was enough for you. If you, the Ole Miss fan, not named Chris, or Chris too, if you got another one, hit me up in those YouTube comments, on Twitter at Spirit Ben in my mentions. But definitely at the Ole Miss Spirit, you can sign up today for just $1. And we talk about this stuff all day, every day. What's happening in the baseball portal? What's this basketball team looking like? Hearing from these new basketball players, not just Koren Johnson, but how about James Scott and Travis Perry? Stories on all those guys. The football piece, writing about rev share, and also summer workouts, pictures and video and stories. It's all there. And it's powered, of course, by RiverLand Roofing. RiverLandRoofing.com, 662-644-4297. I came to you on this Friday live from the RiverLand Roofing Studios, New Albany branch. But be on the lookout. Ask me about it. Keep on me about it. Meet and greets, Twitches, anything you can imagine at that RiverLand Roofing Studios in Oxford, just off the square, built out. It's going to get fun over there. So thank you to RiverLand Roofing. Thank you to Billy Landis. And thank you to the Ole Miss fan for always tuning in to Talk of Champions. It's a blast to do, and I'm thankful for it. God is good. Be good to each other, and I'll see you next week.